Previously on CCTV.
There's something about these boy groups harmonizing, singing about how much they love you and like, what more can I give you? I'm just a man. Like, there's something about that.
Here we go. One more time. Everybody feeling bad. Though the group was insanely successful across the world, hitting global charts and selling out arenas, the group was not earning the money that they should have been. Red flags were raised when during their first check presentation, Pearlman gave the boys a check for only $10,000 US each.
The Backstreet Boys were the first of Pearlman's artists to file a lawsuit noting the unfair terms. NSYNC quickly followed and also filed a lawsuit. RCA and Lou countersued the group right after, and not only was Pearlman contractually the sixth member of both Backstreet and NSYNC, he was in reality participating in fraudulent activities. And it was eventually found out that he was running a Ponzi scheme.
And so Lance, NSYNC member, has since produced a documentary called The Boy Band Con, the Lou Pearlman story about the whole debacle. And it's amazing. So if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it. You can rent it on YouTube, and I'm sure it's available on something else too. But the highly publicized lawsuits not only left NSYNC with very little money, but since they were signed through Lou's record label, who then signed with RCA, they also did not have a record deal, and even the ownership and use of the name NSYNC was being debated.
And following a settlement between NSYNC, Pearlman, and RCA, NSYNC signed to Jive Records. Oh, man. Rough period.
Fascinating.
Absolutely. So just to kind of clarify why I started the Pooh Pearlman thing, it's just you have Dr. Puke, R. Smelly, and now Pooh Pearlman. I refuse to give any of these men their names because they've done what they've done.
Yeah.
So it's out of complete disrespect. But anyway, the situation with him was super. I personally, for me, I guess it's my own personal morals. Or even just beyond that, I just think it's unnecessary. If money's going to come anyway, why go through this extra trouble of continuously like doing people dirty? I mean, granted, like in that documentary, I think they kind of alluded that he was already kind of effing up around that time anyway. So he was using the money he was getting from them to get. It was already kind of just. He was already kind
messy.
of MLMing himself. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
I mean, his whole history is fascinating. Like he started as a blimp salesman, and that already alone is fascinating because that's interesting.
Weird.
But I think it's just one of those cases of how capitalism just ruins people. Capitalism and greed, because it's one of those things where you can never have enough. It's like, and I think also he was finding so much success without any failure, and that's really dangerous as well.
Yes,
because I think
hubris.
Yes, when your ego blows up that big and you have nothing that's going wrong, then you start testing your limits and you start, seeing other things you can do, and it just blew up into this crazy situation. And he really did just screw himself over by the end, which is usually what happens.
True, very true, very true.
But it's really sad that all these young artists and all the adjacent people around them too were all affected by it.
Absolutely.
And it's great that NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, and I think there were a few other artists that also were involved as well. I think O-Town, right? O-Town was involved as well.
Innocence.
Yeah. That they all did kind of end up winning and getting what they needed out of it. Yeah. But all that money that was lost was never recovered, right? So they did all that work performing those techno songs in Europe and never got anything from that.
Selfishness is a hell of a drug, and like it's a shame because like had they just gotten paid, things would be so much better. The fact that these kids were working that much is a shame, and he was using it as like recoupable stuff too. Like, oh, the training, that's money. Oh, the dinners, that's money. And it sucks because even now, like with streaming, artists aren't even getting paid that much. But could you imagine back then going diamond and then splitting it? They would have made like, what, 6 figures? At 20-something? Oh my goodness. I think Lance said he makes more money now outside of the group. Yeah.
I mean, all the recouping stuff is normal, right? Like that part of it is normal in current record deals. And that part of it makes sense. And even him being the 6th member kind of situation, that's actually not that odd either. Yeah. But he was taking way more than that. right?
No,
So
he should have been,
yeah,
right?
he was taking even more than that.
Yeah.
But management do get a pretty decent percentage. He was dealing with all these young kids with parents that didn't understand the ins and outs of the music industry, and he took full advantage of that. And it really is unfortunate because at the core of it, I think, like I mentioned at the beginning, we do have him to thank for creating these groups that we love. Very complicated, but he ended up getting his. So
Speaking of saying goodbye, the boys moved on, and with Johnny Wright becoming the official manager for the group was motivated by their freedom and ready to work on their second album. The second version of their second album, actually, as it was understood that the group was not allowed to keep any of the songs they previously recorded while still under RCA and Pooh.
And under their new deal, the members of NSYNC were able to explore and take ownership of their sound. The group wanted to distinguish their sound from the Backstreet Boys and other boy groups out at the time, and they wanted a more powerful sound. And JC and Justin also participated in writing.
We should also take time to shout out vocal coach and vocal arranger Robin Wiley, who the group has always credited as being an integral part of their sound. And she played a pivotal part in arranging their harmonies and really creating the group's signature sound. So thank you to Robin. And definitely go listen to the Digital Get Down NSYNC podcast episode with Alex Greggs, one of the producers for the album, because there are some really interesting insights on the recording process. For example, he wanted Joey to sing lead on one song, but the label said nah, and was very conscious about keeping JC and Justin in the forefront. Gotta love Americans.
We will get into that. Yes. Yeah. Well, in January 2000, the group released Bye Bye Bye, which was originally written for UK boy band Five. And ironically, Five's hit When the Lights Go Out was originally written for NSYNC. So there was a little bit of a song swap there, and it ended up being, the right thing that happened. And Bye 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 achieved global success with a nomination for Record of the Year at the Grammys and multiple wins at the MTV Video Music Awards.
This song's amazing. The harmonies throughout, like, I'm doing this tonight, you're probably gonna start a fight. Come on. I love that. I think overall, the song was a little bit more focused on lead vocals, which is a little unfortunate. And I do wonder if Five would have gotten the song, with the distribution of the song would have been different. Because in the UK,
they did split it up a bit more evenly. From what I read, I think Five said the original version they heard actually had the chorus as a rap, and they were not a fan of that.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I can hear that, though. It's just, I will say that this is kind of like, I'm glad they didn't switch it permanently, or they swapped it, but then it switched back, because I can't imagine NSYNC going, baby, when the lights go out, you will succumb to me. No, not in.
I could see it.
More
Backstreet Boys, though, actually.
Yes. Love and tenderness, that kind of thing. I'm thinking AJ.
JC would kill it, though. Let's be real.
Yeah, this is very true. JC could do anything. But I'm so glad they got Bye Bye Bye. It's just so good.
Yeah, this song's amazing. Another song that's pop perfection. I find no faults in it, other than maybe, like you were saying, maybe just up the harmony levels a little bit, because the harmonies are there, but they're just a little further back in the mix a little bit.
Yeah.
So my favorite part is that harmonized bridge, before the drama of Justin. Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting because I was listening to another interview, and I think they said JC really didn't like it and thought it was just a bit too similar to I Want You Back. And you actually hear that so much from, the Max Martin kind of adjacent songs, right? Because they really are very sonically similar. But I think this song does fulfill the brief that we mentioned earlier of it being a bit stronger, a bit harder, a bit more powerful.
Assertive, Yes,
totally. Exactly. And it being kind of so perfect for the situation that they had just come out of with Mr. Pearlman. it was perfect. You know, like I was actually surprised that the song was not even written with that in mind. Like the fact that it fits so perfectly, it was meant to be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the music video is also pop perfection. And I see it a lot because I sing this at karaoke every time. And that one does have the real music video. Not the random people walking around a city or a field or whatever. But yeah, the puppeteering at the very beginning, which is just perfect marketing, again, for the album that was about to come out. Then, of course, you have the iconic rotating box that has been used in multiple other pop videos, like with Dream and He Loves You Not, that's featured as well. And yeah, the choreography is iconic. And yes, next time you come over, let's do that. Yay. Is that the song that Darren teaches in his dance grooves?
Because someone had mentioned in one of our comments, like, a while
I had that
back.
video, so
get out of here.
I think that's why I still remember it.
Get out. You know what? I never had it, but I did have the Game Boy Advance game. There was a Game Boy game.
Oh, yes, I had that as well.
Yeah, and then one of my classmates, I think, again, I was like in kindergarten-ish when the song came out because one of my friends, shout out to Zell, we're not friends anymore, but, I was younger. She had the NSYNC phone. It was, all right, girl, you know what I'm talking about.
NSYNC phone?
Yes, and I was so, sorry, I got super passionate. So at the time, you could speed dial any of the members, and all I could remember was cute Justin with the cute curly hair. Me in kinder first, whatever grade, I was like, I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him I love him. So I did. And you know what he did? I was like, do you want to be my boyfriend? And he said no in such a sassy way. Like, if you guys watch any of the behind the scenes, like, videos or recordings, Justin has a sense of humor, so he'll say, like, really sassy.
Wait, so they actually responded to these voicemails?
No, there were sound bites recorded to the phone.
Okay.
But in my little kid mind, he was rejecting me. And I almost dropped the group because I was like, he's like, I don't think so. So, like, something like that. So whatever the sound bite was, it was very much like, I was like, Trump.
Oh, so it was like a magic 8-ball where you'd get, like, a random, like, generated response?
Yeah, my dumb kid behind was like, I hate him. I was like, I'm breaking up with him.
Brittany.
Listen, I had fruit roll up and a secret password journal at the time. I had more to offer apparently, so I was so heartbroken as a kid. But yeah, I mean, like that time was just like NSYNC mania. So there was like no way to escape. You're playing with them. You're playing on a phone. There was dolls that I could not afford because private school. But it was just all about them, and it's, I mean, well deserved. But it's just like coming from the ground up, like how that happened. Kudos.
Yes. So yes, the single was followed by the global release of the album No Strings Attached in March 2000, and the album's title was a reference to their situation with Pearlman and how he was no longer their puppet master. The project eventually became the best-selling album of 2000.
Wild.
So the Backstreet Boys had actually broken records only months previously with their album Millennium, but the rivalry was at its peak, and NSYNC broke Backstreet Boys' record and surpassed everyone's expectations. And another little fun note from Johnny Wright's interview. So around this time-ish is when the Backstreet Boys actually fired him as their manager.
Oh, shoot.
And he was very real with them and was like, look, like, if I'm only working for NSYNC, I'm making them bigger than you.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah, he said, you'll regret this. Well, that being said, the UK and Europe got a special single release of the song I'll Never Stop in May 2000, which wasn't even included on the US edition of the album. Oh, we love exclusives. I will never stop until you're mine. I can wait forever till the end of time, 'cause my heart is in your hands. Don't you understand? I'll never stop. And the next global single released from the album was It's Gonna Be Me, the group's first #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song continues to be referenced every year on the last day of April for the use of producer Max Martin's signature pronunciation of May in the It's Gonna Be May. It's gonna be
me.
You know, I always thought it was because Justin couldn't pronounce me without sounding terrible. Gonna be me. I would have been like, nah, say May. I would have been like, say May.
Yeah. You know what, though? Britney always did it in all her
Yes,
songs. And it's in a lot more of the NSYNC and Backstreet Boys songs.
Yeah.
And, you know, artists continue to do it to this day. It adds so much drama.
Oh, my
perfect.
goodness. This song is so good. But yeah, no, this song is great. It's, again, still surprising how this is our first number one with Bye Bye. But I'm like, what's going on? But hey, kudos to them.
Deserved.
Yeah, kudos to them outselling and everybody that year, not just BSB. And I remember watching that, was it the Good Day performance where those kids were like, not even kids, adults. Everyone was filling out 30 Rock. It's the same when we saw Jungkook do 7. People were sleeping outside. Some girl was like, I was here since midnight last night. The girl was like, where are you now? You know, like it was just giving like, you're obsessed. But that even that kind of like fandom has transcended time, and like we have BTS now kind of like being that I'll sleep out in the rain for kind of group. So this album's solid, dude. It's a solid album too. Just want to just kind of make that like
Oh yeah. Well, before we get into the album, It's Gonna Be Me is so good.
Yeah.
Like it really is one of the songs I never get bored of. And I also never get bored of the meme that comes every April 30th either. Like it's funny every time.
Yes, it is. It is.
And the boys acknowledge it as well, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the musicality of the song is actually really cool. Like it's super strong. There's a lot of kind of staccato to the way they sing it and just the way the production is done. And the harmonies are a bit louder and more prominent on this one than Bye Bye Bye. Like you do have that whole 5-part kind of moment. At the start. Yes. And again, one of my absolute favorite NSYNC music videos as well. Like this whole doll concept was fantastic. They look a little scary with that makeup. But the whole concept is just brilliant. And also, shout out to I'll Never Stop as well. It's not a bad song, but it does feel a little derivative from the first album. Like it is kind of like the lesser cousin of like Tearing Up My Heart and I Want You Back. So I understand why it wasn't included on the US version, but we do have like a really crappy music video for it.
You know what? I think that song was the precursor to 2 PM's again. They get that.
Oh, yes. Well, No Strings Attached. It's a progression from the first album for sure.
Yes.
What do you think?
Looking back on it now, there's so many fun songs on here. Oh my God. And they were like being a little bit less like, oh girl, I love you. You're the only one for me. It was more like, I will take you from this man if he doesn't love you. It makes me ill. Like, because they're in their 20s, like they're in their hot boy era.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love when pop boy groups get into that. Hey, we're all grown. We've all kind of done things. We want to talk about the things we've done, and then we get good music because they can actually sing, they dance. Like, I think one of the random songs are like the Space Cowboy songs. Absolutely. Talking about Jerusalem and all this other crap. Like it's giving very like Y2K, the turn of the century kind of thing. It's like, oh my God, the world's going to end. But it's so fun. And it gives a good example of like how they don't take themselves too seriously and how they actually can really sing and have fun. And it's just such a solid song. I enjoy it. It's probably one of my like faves. But yeah, and then you have the good ballads. You have like these awesome songs on there. And I Thought She Knew, I think it is. Songs like that where it's like, even with their performances, the boys finally get a little bit more shine, not that much, but at least with the performances, you can be like, okay, they're pulling their weight. It's just unfortunate sometimes with this album, like you can't really hear the others as much as like the first album. That's kind of like my only like, dang it, like wasted opportunity here, you know? But I'm not a producer or whatever.
Yeah,
but...
no, that is interesting. Yeah, we didn't really note the first album, like the harmonies are so prominent. Like sometimes the harmonies are as loud as the lead vocals and you really can pick out all the members very easily.
Yeah.
And they definitely are pushed back more in this whole album. I Thought She Knew was an interesting call out because that is an a cappella track and it was written by Robin Wiley, like their vocal arranger. And they had actually been singing that since before they even debuted in Germany.
Yeah.
So them including that was really awesome. And you do get Joey and Chris singing lead on that second verse as well. And they sound amazing. They sound really good. So it is a little annoying for sure. And then, you referenced that interview, with that producer where he was explicitly told by the label not to confuse the fans, quote unquote, and only put Justin and JC in the forefront. That's crazy. Like, there's only 5 members. Like, having the 3 of them get a line here or there will not take away from the shine, from the spotlight on the other 2. Like, it's very, very annoying. And yeah, it's just very American, as we've mentioned in the show many times, because the British groups were always way better without the vocal distribution overall.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, totally.
It's great that they are now differentiating their sound a bit more from the Backstreet Boys, because you really could probably just kind of mix and match the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC's first couple album. With Backstreet Boys' first couple albums and then NSYNC's first album, you can kind of mix and match a little bit. Not so much the Eurodance stuff, but the more R&B stuff. So with this album, you get more like funk, you get a bit more dance, you get some New Jack Swing properly in there. And then the vocal arrangements do differ a lot from the way the Backstreet Boys did it. So that's kudos to Robin yet again as well for making sure that was very unique. And so, No Strings Attached overall, though, is definitely one of my favorite boy band albums ever. Like, I don't think there's any real dud at all. Yeah. Definitely the singles do stand out. So it's not like every song could be a single. But every song is good.
Yeah, the ballads are good. Bring in the Noise. It's just like a callback to, Here We Go. It's good. Like,
yes, because you do still have kind of the sillier stuff like that. You do have like Space Cowboy, just kind of fun, sillier stuff. Then you have the more slightly experimental stuff. You got the cheeky cover of Just Got Paid, which again references the whole situation with the label and everything so well. And then even the songs that they wrote were good too. Like, I love the song Justin wrote, I'll Be Good For You. He mentioned it was kind of like a callback to like Marvin Gaye and kind of that era.
Teddy.
And it's so good.
Yeah, Teddy Pendergrass. He got credited on that. So I was just like, I hear my people.
And there's one performance of it, and it's so good.
Boy, things like that. I'm like, thank you, fans. Thank you. We appreciate it, because otherwise it's just lost in memory. I remember when I
upscaled it too. So thank you, whoever did the AI upscale.
So the last single from the No Strings Attached album was This I Promise You. Can't help but to sing it. And it was written by Richard Marx, and it was another huge hit for the group.
And I will take you in my arms and hold you right where you belong until the day my life is through. This I promise you.
And the group also recorded a Spanish version of the track.
And through the next year, NSYNC embarked on the No Strings Attached tour and also co-headlined the Super Bowl halftime show in 2001 with Aerosmith and special guests.
Man.
This I Promise You.
Yes.
Shout out to Richard Marx, man. He knows how to write a ballad.
Yeah. I love it. And again, JC, my man does not make me feel the way he makes me feel about the song. Like, I don't want to get married right now. I don't want him. He sounds like he's like, this is my last day on earth. This I promise you.
This is one of his highlight moments, I think, across their discography. Like, it's vocally perfect from JC.
Yes.
And through the years, like, he's also performed it with various people. Like, I watched a performance with Richard Marx that he did, which was kind of a more acoustic kind of situation. And then Matthew Morrison also randomly sang it at his concert and invited JC on it. So yeah, this song has also stood the test of time. Like, I think when people mention NSYNC, this one tends to be the ballad that people mention. More so than maybe God Must Have Spent or Gone or anything. Like, this tends to be the one. And I think even on Spotify, it's like number 4 or something on their most streamed. So
yeah, sounds like a wedding song. Sounds like a wedding song.
It does. Yeah. I will say the video is a tad boring.
Ballads are hard to do videos for.
I guess ballads are tough to do videos for, but like them like walking around in the woods with like those like bubbles. And then the random scene near the end of them just like eating lunch.
Stop. Not them just eating lunch. Like, you make it sound... I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I have nothing to contest that. I agree. It's crazy 'cause we have a ballot in K-pop. They have like this most abstract. You have to like kind of Google and Wikipedia search the storyline. Like it's freaking crazy where we've come from watching.
Yeah, maybe
videos.
my standards have gotten too high from the more modern music videos. But...
No, it's just boring. Like back in the day, like I guess it's like the song speaks for itself.
Which it does.
Yeah. So I guess
but I'd much
like...
rather watch a performance than watch this music video. And I watched it twice because of the Spanish version. So
kudos for them for doing Spanish version, because Spanish, if you don't speak it, it is phonetically speaking, it's tough to then try to do it. It's a pain, but yes, my question is, who the heck was buying this album? Like, no offense, but I just want to know what the heck happened for them to like sell so well with this whole era. I'm not hating on them. I'm just like, was it one of those like, I want to see if this is gonna suck without Pearlman? I think gonna suck. Like, was it curiosity? Was it like? It's just amazing to kind of see this be like their blow up moment. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think they were laying the groundwork with the first album. You know.
Yeah.
And they were gaining a little bit more credibility as well with like the Gloria Estefan duet and everything. Yeah. So I think Bye 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 was so good that it kind of just catapulted the whole thing.
So, back when singles used to be like the ultimate song.
And their performances also, like, even I remember people would talk about their performances. Like, even me, like, as a 10-year-old or whatever, like, people would reference, like, their VMA performances, you know, and stuff that they would do. Like, that Bye 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 performance with the screens that they did at the VMAs, like, I remember that so well. And I remember watching that, like, at the time when I was 10.
No, you're so right. So, it's like the way I remember AJ's crop top for everybody. I will never let...
Yeah, but I would argue, though, that I think NSYNC they were known as better performers than the Backstreet Boys. I feel like NSYNC was mentioned a lot more in those types of pop culture situations. So it makes sense. Plus, you have a lot of other little things going on. Like Justin was dating Britney, and like there was just all these other things going on too that kind of made them all bigger as a group. So I think they were very lucky. It all just kind of culminated in this like insane record, which I believe has since been broken by Adele. Right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. But it was NSYNC before that, so. Yeah. So you mentioned the No Strings Attached tour earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did watch this together during the, pandemic times, and we could do nothing but watch TV. But yes, what do you think of the No Strings Attached tour?
Okay, sorry. This is where I saw JC pop that booty.
Yes.
Okay, I know he's talking about this man's behind, but it helps, you know, because they have like the energy.
Sure. It helps.
No, watching all their performances, like the only time like me as a young like person, even like a young teenager, I grew up with Black music, so I know Black groups like New Edition, and the only person that was in there thrusting on the drum beat was freaking Bobby Brown. So to see them do that back then and then come and do all this cool hip hop, like my mom said this the other night when I was watching the No Strings Attached tour. She goes, "Them white boys can get down," and it's true. Those white boys was getting down, like they brought out whatever they had. They were like they said, "There's no strings on me, baby." They said they're shaking, jiving, singing, and even when they were sitting down, like they sang their faces off. That was the concert I was telling you, like the bass for Lance's mic was super high. I'm like, yo.
It was.
But again, the mics were on.
I love this show so much. And I think what's the most impressive about it is it's just the five of them.
Yes.
No dancers.
No.
Like, yes, there's obviously production stuff going on, but they really carry it so well. And it's insane. Like, they sing the crap out of every song. They dance the crap out of every song. Yeah. Like, the stability and breathing control and everything is just insane. And I can't believe they kept it up for, like, the whole show, too. Like, the last song, which I think is Bye Bye Bye, of course, was just as high energy as No Strings Attached at the start. Like, it never goes down at all. And it's just amazing. And then going back to that making of, all five of them were so involved in every single aspect as well. Like, they were analyzing where the pyro was and when it happens and how big it was and then how the lasers looked. And they were really getting into the nitty-gritty of it, which is always really nice to see because, you know, a lot of the artists now, they don't get as involved with some of that stuff, like especially on the K-pop side, right? Like, it's kind of like they have these production people that kind of just do the whole thing for them, and then they
Yeah.
are taught it, and then they go out and do it because they're just so busy doing all these other things. So
Yep.
it's nice to see the artist kind of take so much control there. And then shout out to Kevin Antunes, who's the music director, I think, for their whole career, because the tour arrangements are so good.
I was
And
going to say that.
yeah, the biggest thing I appreciate is they always have a sax player, and they utilize him so well.
So random. It's just like, I'm ready.
Yeah. So well. So yeah, I have seen this multiple times. I was watching it on the plane when I was coming back home, and there were definitely people walking by and staring at my screen. And
All right. Like,
I'm
what
sure
is he
they
watching?
went back and also went back to listen to NSYNC.
Look at you.
Oh man. And then we have to talk about the Super Bowl performance as well, because that was quite iconic for them to do. What did you think?
You know, back in the day when they started doing these, not even like, no, they always kept doing like these. We're going to like the Super Bowls. They were always just throwing random people on
most.
stage together. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like they didn't really like, was it ever, I guess, like streamline the process.
Hone it down. Yeah, hone
There
it
it is.
in. Yeah, yeah.
Until like I forgot who, but after the Janet thing, that's
Oh,
any little doodle. It was interesting to see everyone and their mother on stage at that time. Like literally, even random. I was getting ready to cuss. Even, no offense, Mary J. Blige. It just didn't make sense. Like it just, and then Aerosmith, and then Britney comes out, and it was just a lot. And I feel like they could have just held it down on their own.
totally.
I do appreciate that they kind of had like a little work in with like Ben Stiller and like them joking around, kind of like getting ready to go out into the field. So it kind of creates this anticipation. They're running out. They could have handled it on their flipping own, but they held it down. Like, oh my gosh, they gave me vocals. They gave me band. They were eating it up. They're at their peak. They were
Yeah.
literally at their peak. One of the best performances. I think the only like boy group to ever like perform on there too, right?
Oh, they might be, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, they held it down. I agree with you. Like, it really could have just been them and Aerosmith just kind of going back and forth, though. Like,
Yeah, it
you
was-
really didn't need Britney and Mary. And
sorry, Brittany. Sorry, Mary.
It was chaotic. It was really
Yes.
chaotic at the end, but their
Yes.
parts were amazing. So,
The spyros and the
Mm.
pyro coming from the gloves and stuff. Yeah, it was just,
Yeah.
it was great. It was a lot of fire
Mhm.
and sparks.
yes. And another fun fact from this era, courtesy of our friend and listener, David. So, Joey's
Yeah.
brother, JC, and Chris had apparently also filmed a cameo for Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh.
apparently there were union issues,
Oh.
so no one has ever seen this cameo, but they were very excited about it.
You know, when I think about how much they were working, they probably were so tired that whatever
yeah.
you got out of their mouths was just like some weird Daisy sleep version of them, or whatever caffeinated version you got. So yeah, kudos to them for like working so hard, you know. I do wonder how much money they made though from this album. I'm curious now that you got like that.
It should
Now-
be millions.
Yeah.
Should be.
Craziness. Okay, well, moving on to the next era. For the next album, NSYNC took on even more creative control.
Time for one more recess break. In part 3, we will discuss the celebrity era, the breakup, the little reunions we've had, and discuss if there's a future for NSYNC. See you there.